powered by 3 separate engines. They're 6.0 direct inject Chevrolet aluminum block motors. Actually, we got about 1,200 total horsepower. Now this is a jet boat, so that means there is no rudder, there is no prop, literally nothing underneath this boat to catch. Even if we had a log float down the middle of the river, we could literally skip right over that log and it would do nothing to the boat. With this design, it is a very shallow draft vessel. And even though this boat weighs 17 ton, we only need about 16 inches of water to run in. Very impressive considering the size of the vessel. I am now implementing the soft enforcement on the mask policy. Yes. They're cleared for launch. Oh man, look at this sunshine. This is great. Yeah. Love it. You did think it was going to be cold. Isn't this nice? This is great too. It's just wonderful. Good. folks that'll stop here, we're going to kind of orientate you to the river system. Again, when we're stopped like this, if you want to come up front and get a picture, you can. And you can also go out to the back deck and get a photo as well.
Alright guys, so we started out on the Talkeetna River. We made that big right-hand turn. We entered the Susitna. Right off to the left is the third river in the area, the Chulitna. All three rivers combine into one called the Big Susitna, or the Big Sioux, which goes about another 110 miles south down into Cook Inlet. Israel was mentioning earlier, these are glacially fed rivers. They run very cold, anywhere from 36 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit all summer long. The Chulitna by far is the coldest, and it stays around 38 degrees. Now, because they're glacially fed, what's happening, those glaciers up in the mountain ranges, they're melting and they're moving. They're grinding up the rock underneath them into a very fine powder called glacial silt or glacial flour. It's what you see suspended in the water, giving it kind of a murky color. And it's a little difficult to tell in this light, but if you look off the left side of the boat, you can see a color line where the Chulitna is coming in with the Susitna. That's because different glaciers feed them, so different rocks and minerals that give them different water color. Is the what? So these are very weather dependent river systems. We don't, up in the Alaska range currently, the glaciers aren't melting necessarily faster than they are. Then like if you go down towards Seward, you can see how like over the years that one has melted substantially. But if we have really warm days up in the glaciers, or the water might come up. If we have lots and lots of heavy rain following warm days, that's when the water comes up a lot. Yeah, so Talkeetna, the town of Talkeetna is built on a floodplain.
Yes, it is.
Super neat. So in the last couple of about the last 20 years, we've had two like 100-year floods. In 2012, we had a flood that got most of the town, just people could drive a boat down Main Street, sort of flooded. When we get back to the dock, it's still barely visible, but on the ground fencing by the outhouses, you can see a high water mark, and that is the 2012 flood. So today, the current water flow through the Susitna River that we're beyond is at 21,600 cubic feet of water per second. So that's about 21,600 basketballs will go by us every single second. That's pretty average for July. Now you may notice the names of the rivers sound similar. We have Talkeetna, Susitna, Chulitna. That common na you hear is an Athabascan word, and it means river. So each river has a specific meaning. Talkeetna is river of plenty due to the abundant salmon runs. The river we're traveling on today, the Susitna, is river of sandy islands or sand island river. You notice as we go up, it's very braided, has large islands in the middle. And Chulitna is a river of sticks or trees. You can kind of get an idea why a lot of the sticks, trees, they wash up on the sandbars right down here. And you'll hear that na throughout Alaska. There's Anana, Tanana, Volcana, Chena. A lot of the interior river systems have that name. Now, if you look directly off the bow of the boat, about 11 o'clock, it is behind the clouds today, but that is where Denali does stand at 20,310 feet. Has anyone been lucky enough to see Denali on their travels so far? A couple of you. That's awesome. I'm sure everyone's heard by now, only about 30% of the people visiting Alaska get to see any part of Denali. If you folks are hanging around the Talkeetna area, it is supposed to start clearing up in the next day or so, so fingers crossed that we'll be able to see part of the mountain. Now, because Denali is the tallest peak in North America, that makes it very popular with climbers. We have climbers from all over the world that have to come to Talkeetna, register at the Walter Harper Ranger Station, take a flight service with one of our local taxis up to base camp before they start their climb. Climbing season's over now, so we still have a couple of stragglers that are coming off the mountain, but it really only ranges from mid-April to mid-July. So before April, it's very cold. Not many people want to be climbing, and around July, it actually starts to get too warm. So all the ice bridges the climbers have been using start to fall apart. Avalanches are more frequent. It's just too dangerous, so the rangers pull everyone off the mountain for safety reasons. They called it this year on July 4th, but there were still about 70 people trying to attempt to summit. Now, this year we had a pretty good climbing season. We had a summit success rate of 58%. We hang around 50% on an average year, so pretty good climbing year. And an average climb to Denali takes about 14 to 21 days. The climbers have to let their bodies acclimate to the very high elevation, or there is pulmonary or cerebral edema, which is fluid building up in the lungs or around the brain, and that can be fatal if they don't return to a safe elevation. So oftentimes what climbers will do is they'll take some of their gear, climb up, stash it, hang out a few hours, go back down below overnight, and essentially leapfrog their gear up the mountain that way, getting slowly acclimated until high base camp when they make that push to the summit. But that being said, 14 to 21 days, that's a really long time to try and attempt a mountain. So of course people try to set speed records. And a couple of summers ago, we had an absolutely amazing speed record set. A gentleman from Ecuador, Carl Ekloff, was able to make it from base camp up to the summit, back down to base camp in 11 hours and 44 minutes.
Wow.
World athlete. He's essentially a professional mountain racer. There's a couple of dozen of these people that go around and set records on mountains. He was very acclimated, flew straight into base camp, packed the bare essentials, essentially ran up the mountain, and then he snowshoed back down. He beat the previous record holder by 4 minutes, and that gentleman skied back down in some places.
Wow. That's great.
And some other kind of notable records regarding Denali. The youngest person to ever climb it was a local kid from Talkeetna, Galen Johnston. He summited with his parents on Father's Day when he was 11. And the oldest person to ever climb it was a man from Anchorage, Tom Choate. His nickname is Choate the Mountain Goat, and he climbed it about a month shy of his 79th birthday.
I just go at the back.
Basically, everyone on this boat is pretty capable of climbing the mountain. It only takes about half a day, right?